Welcome to the Healthpreneur podcast. My name is Uriel Kame, New York Times bestselling author, former professional athlete, and founder of Healthpreneur, the world's leading company helping health and fitness experts start and scale high-end coaching businesses. If you want to attract more clients, learn how to convert them without feeling salesy, and deliver an amazing program for them on the back end, if you want to be inspired by what others just like you have gone through and how you can do the same no matter what life throws your way, then you are in the right place, because every single week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we're going to be bringing you the best to help you take your knowledge and expertise to the next level with your health or fitness coaching business. And if you enjoy what you see and hear and would like to take your business to the next level, then I invite you to check out our free online training over at healthpreneurgroup.com/training. And for now, let's get into today's episode. Hey guys, what's up? Yuri here, and welcome to another Client Deep Dive on the Healthpreneur podcast. I'm excited to be joined by one of our clients today. Her name is Stacia O'Block, and she's an amazing fitness coach. And we're going to be going deep into what she needs help with her business. So without any further ado, Stacia, welcome, and let's jump into what specifically we can get some clarity around on today's discussion.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Yuri. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. All right, so talk to me. We were just briefly talking before we started recording about the big idea. So what specifically can we get clarity around with respect to your big idea, your webinar, and then we'll brainstorm and create some cool stuff for you.
Okay, awesome. I'm looking forward to it. So I'm kind of where I'm at. I have like 3 real problems written out and have played around with like what my big idea would be and just how they would connect, and trying to figure out which one makes the most sense and committing to that.
Sure.
Because having the lack of clarity is like kind of put me at a halt, because I'm like, well, I'm not really sure what to do next.
Cool. So just for our viewers and listeners, a bit of context, guys. We're talking about the webinar, which is a major piece in the Perfect Client Pipeline that we help our clients build out. The big idea is kind of the hook. It's the one thing you want your viewers to buy into, the one thing you want them to really believe about your approach to whatever problem you're solving. So the big idea is important, because if you don't nail the big idea, your webinar ends up becoming very much like what everyone else is talking about. And it's very challenging for people who are not well versed in marketing and haven't been doing this for so long to wrap their head around this. So don't worry, Stacia, you're not alone, and we'll figure this out here. So talk to me about what you have as a big idea right now.
Okay, so the initial one I had, I didn't like because it in my work, and again, it's hard for me to differentiate between what I'm bombarded with and what my clients are, because like for me, it seems like I've heard everything, and I don't know. You
were mentioning you were your clients years ago, right? Which is good to have that perspective too.
Yeah, so the first one is the old way of restrictive dieting and endless hours on the treadmill is a useless protocol that keeps your body clinging onto fat and makes permanent fat loss impossible.
Cool.
The next one, the old way of gym memberships, diet plans, insanity workouts, personal training, following the current diet trend have been setting you up to fail from the day you started. And then the old way of thinking you always need more workouts, more intensity, more variety, more diet rules is keeping you stuck.
Cool. So the good news is that you can actually combine those 3 into one. And I would extract a lot of that as the secrets or the content you're going to share in the webinar. So the whole idea is that the old way people are doing things are keeping them stuck, overweight, and just sabotaging their results pretty much, right? So that is the inkling of a big idea. And whatever the big idea is, it needs to be novel, different, contrarian, so that the person's like watching this is like, wow, that's not what I was expecting. Now, the big idea needs to be supported by your content, right? So the discoveries or secrets we talked about that are going to go now into the teaching component of your webinar need to support that big idea. So let me just draw this out so that you and our viewers can get a better sense of this. So if we look at, just let me get this out. So if we look at like a tabletop, right? So the table is going to be, so this is going to be your big idea. The tabletop itself is the big idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what the legs are going to be, so each of the legs is going to be content, and if you have more, we'll just put these in here.
Mm-hmm.
So all the content you're going to share in your webinar is going to support the big idea.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what the heck I just drew there, but that's a really bad drawing of a table, but hopefully you guys get the idea. Is you have a big idea, which is like you are making your case in court. And now the jury and the judge are going to be like, okay, can you show us some proof? Can you back this up, or is this just some kind of hyperbole? So now when you talked about, you mentioned a number of different things in there, which I think are really golden pieces to include in your content. So if we look at, as an overarching idea, the big idea being the old way that you've been told to, let me backtrack for a second. What is the one major outcome you're helping your clients achieve? Is it like lose weight or get in shape?
See, that's also where I struggle, because for me, like, a big thing is like where I felt my worst was that I just didn't have any confidence or belief in myself. And so through fitness and working out and taking care of myself, it was the first time I had made myself and my happiness and my health a priority, and it changed my life. So like for me, that's the confidence, and that is something that I'm very passionate about, but obviously I want them to lose fat in the process.
So let me ask you this. When you were, can you remember back to when you kind of hit your wit's end? Like, can you remember that moment where you're like, okay, I'm going to do this, in terms of your own personal transformation?
Yes.
Okay. And was that moment leading up to that, was it, I need to lose the weight, or I need to, what was the impetus for you to make that transition?
It was more, I had got myself into a situation that I just didn't. So essentially I was arrested for drinking and driving.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so that, again, that's not something that I would expect many of my clients to technically be able to relate to. But definitely I hit a very big rock bottom where I knew that something in my life needed to change. And I wasn't sure what it was. It wasn't that I need to get healthy, because while I struggled with my weight and the yo-yo roller coaster diet and losing 10 pounds and gaining 20, it never was this huge struggle with my health. Mm-hmm. I never was super sick or had anything. I just knew something needed to change. And then when I started to trade my nights out drinking for early mornings at the gym, my life totally changed.
So what made you decide that the gym was going to be the salvation for you, as opposed to going to the library and reading books, for instance?
That's a good question. I would say because I wasn't happy with the way I looked.
Okay.
I wasn't confident. And so I knew that if I started to take that part seriously, at least that was something I could put my energy and time into.
Sure.
And see results versus if I read a book, am I necessarily there's no proof of I just became a better person or I learned something
Yeah. And I know this is going a little bit deeper than maybe you were expecting.
Yeah. Was
the drinking kind of a way to cover up how you felt about yourself?
100%.
Yeah. So you see, I don't know if you're talking about this in your webinar, but I strongly would talk about this, because this is a really important story that, even though people can't relate to drinking and driving necessarily, what you're sharing here is very deep and raw. And you're essentially telling people, listen, I was at such a point in my life where I felt I just didn't feel good about myself, and I thought that numbing the pain away with alcohol was the solution. And then this crap happened, and I knew there had to be a better way. And that there's obviously you found your salvation was exercise. So I think that's a really great story to share. And whether or not people want to lose weight, have more energy, get their life back in track, that is something that's going to hit them, I believe, at a really deep level, and they're going to see themselves in your story, not in the sense of like drinking and driving necessarily, but they might recognize a moment in their life where they're like, you know what? Yeah, there are things that I'm doing that are covering up the fact that I'm not happy with where I'm at. And then you're basically showing them that there's a better way to feel better, more confident, happier. And that happens to be through this protocol that you've developed. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay. So with that said, and so the outcome is essentially, it is a little bit of weight loss. It's body transformation. It's basically feeling kind of like removing the mask and becoming the real you and using fitness to do that. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
So then if that's the outcome, the promise of the webinar, the big idea could still be what we talked about. So the big idea is that if that's the goal, then you've probably done or are considering doing all these different things that we've all been told for years. And your big idea is saying that way, the old way of doing all that stuff is broken and it's not going to help you get results. It's probably going to make you even feel worse about yourself, which is going to compound the whole issue. How does that feel as a big idea?
That sounds good.
Yeah.
I do a little combination of those.
Because then so you have that umbrella, because now you can take the components you had mentioned before, and we can break those out into the various topics or the secrets or discoveries that you then share in the content pieces of the webinar.
Because then I like the big idea. My program is for people to have workouts they can do at home with just one thing, which is going to be the kettlebell.
Totally.
That's kind of like the thing. So like most people think you need a gym with all this equipment and you need to learn how to use 50 different pieces of equipment, but when in reality you just need this one tool and it tucks away next to your favorite pair of shoes. Yeah, no,
I think it's such a great, there's less resistance to that offer, right? It's like, well, I could do that. That's okay. I don't need a gym membership. I don't need a home gym. I don't need all this stuff. So I think the barrier to entry for someone in their mind to think about, oh, I could do that, as opposed to, okay, you need a gym membership and then you have to go to Whole Foods 5 days a week and then you need to spend an hour in the kitchen. That's like, well, there's no way I want to do that. So I think the offer itself is very compelling. And especially if you're building the case leading up to that, saying how this is a waste of time, it's not going to get you the results. I mean, it could, but you could take forever getting there. I think it's a really nice segue from here's what everyone else is doing. And ironically, we're seeing more overweightness and sickness than ever before, even with all this stuff. And here's a simpler solution that I've just discovered for myself and a lot of my clients that seems to be working better. So I think it's a really nice juxtaposition. So if we look at the content itself, what would be the first secret or discovery you share in the webinar?
Oh God. I can't remember. Let me see. I'm trying to think where I do that. Secret or discovery. Sorry.
It's all good.
Just imagine.
So while you're digging this out, for everyone watching and listening, if you guys are hopefully kind of digging this, hopefully what you're digging out of this is that creating a great webinar or any kind of, let's call it a sales message or any kind of content for that matter, it's extremely important that you understand the nuances that go into this, because if you just put up a bunch of slides with some content on them, your webinar is not going to convert. And this is why we do what we do and help our clients through this process, because it isn't second nature for most people to think this way. So,
yeah, I believe so. So I had written out a bunch of different kind of myths and things like that, but hadn't honed in on specific ones because again, I was trying to get the big idea first, so I would make sure that it was consistent. So kind of the one big discovery I feel like was what I already said, was that you don't need I don't know if that's what you're asking, but you don't need that. You think an at-home gym has to take up all this space and you need all this expensive equipment or a fancy gym membership, but really you just need this one thing. So it's something I discovered, that I don't need all this stuff.
Sure.
And I don't need to learn how to use all this things and have a complicated bodybuilding regimen to get great results.
I'm just going to map this out So let's see if this makes more sense. So we want to make sure there's three things that we address. Okay. So three things that we address. Number one, when we're sharing our content, we want it to be novel or different, which is kind of the same, but not really. And then third is contrarian. Now, it doesn't have to be all three, but it should be at least one of them.
Okay. I found the two that were more in line with what I was looking for. So
Sure.
most people think hiring a personal trainer at the gym is the pinnacle of creating change in their lives, but really this shackles you to an outdated system with little support and a scheduling nightmare. See the program my clients utilize to schedule their workouts on their time, et cetera, et cetera.
Nice. I like that. So, and remember, Stacia, and everyone watching and listening, what you're sharing doesn't have to be the absolute truth, because there's truth to whatever you want to say. You could say that personal training is you need to have a personal trainer to change, but you could also take the opposite end of the spectrum, which is what you're doing here, is you're saying you don't need a personal trainer to change. In fact, it's actually holding you back. And as long as you back that up with exhibit A, exhibit B, whatever context you need to share, so the person believes in what you're saying. Right?
Yeah, because for me, I have trained in person at a gym one-on-one doing that style of personal trainings. And I felt like it was kind of a cop-out for people to be like, oh, I went and I saw my trainer, so that's all I need to do for the week.
Yep,
and with me being as busy as I am, it's not like I can sit there and make sure that every single client has their meal plan, like whatever they're doing on the back end when they're not with me. And I didn't like that system because I didn't think it really brought the best results.
Yep, totally.
For my
I think that's a very valid point, 100%, because that is a contrarian point. That is something that people believe having a trainer is important. And now you're saying, listen, you don't need to do that. I also don't think that it doesn't chop you off at the knees, because you are obviously going to be offering some type of coaching program, which is like, well, why would you offer a coaching program? But I don't think it really cannibalizes your own offer, because you're giving them more of an empowered solution as opposed to you being there holding their hand, like doing the sit-ups for them, right? So I think that really works well with the eventual offer. Cool. So what we want to do in terms of the slide when we're sharing that, the first secret I discovered is going to be something clean, concise. It almost should be like a book title or something you could put into a social quote card that you could put up on Instagram, and someone in like one sentence, they're like, wow, that actually makes a lot of sense. So what's another way we could say that is going to be just really quickly very impactful?
The idea that I always had was why you should fire your personal trainer.
Perfect. So I love that. Secret number one, why you should fire your personal trainer. Or secret number one could just be fire your personal trainer. And then, you could talk over that, and here's why. So I think that's really good. That's going to get people to stick and watch, like, what is this lady talking about? She's crazy. Okay. What's the second secret or discovery?
Most people think chugging a gallon of hot water, lemon, maple syrup, and cayenne while wearing a waist trainer will help them get the body of their dreams. But really, all you need is a simple blueprint to transform your physique.
Cool.
So this kind of goes on along the lines of restricted diets and restricted diets that I've done. So the cabbage soup diet, the master cleanse is the one with the hot water and all that stuff, and all those ridiculous fad diets. Yes.
So I like that. So again, if we're thinking of a way to just really impactfully say that, we could say, for instance, like the master cleanse and master waste of time, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
You could use that, or you could say, if you want to go above and beyond just the master cleanse, quick fix diets or quick fix gimmicks are creating long-term problems, for instance.
That makes sense. Yeah, so I liked making it more, like making the point concise, but then like when I'm speaking to it, I can elaborate more is the idea. Exactly. So you're trying to like think of each slide, the introduction of the secret or discovery as the billboard, right? Like in ours, for instance, we talk about how you don't have to be famous to be financially free, right? And then we go on to talk about that. We also, one of our slides is one-on-one is done.
And then we talk about, why that's the case, and we compare it to group coaching and so forth. So you want that initial slide wants to be really impactful, something that when they finish the webinar, they can almost remember those things. And as they're going through the content, what we're trying to do is mentally it's almost like we're creating a checklist. And as we're going through the webinar, the viewer wants to be like, yep, that makes sense. Yep, that makes sense. Yep, that makes sense. I'm not too sure about that one. Based on the way you just said it, yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. And every step along the webinar, they're buying in, they're buying in, they're buying in, they're buying in. The goal of the webinar is not to teach people. It's not to give away your best stuff. It's not to sell your program. It's to get people to buy in to your philosophy, so that when you do transition to here's the next step, book a call, they're like, yeah, okay, this makes a lot of sense. Is this helpful so far?
Very helpful.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at one more secret or discovery. What's the third thing?
Let's see. Because I have other ones, but I'm not super sold on them because I don't think they necessarily relate to my ideal client. Like, I think it's like ideas that I have, like that I relate pertaining to fitness, but not necessarily my ideal client. Like, I don't think they would be like, oh, yep, that makes total sense.
One of the things that I'm sure you have in here, it would be something like more equipment equals more problems.
Okay.
Right. And what that's going to do is that's going to sell simplicity. And then you could even talk about, like, for us, one of our secrets is the simplest solution is usually the best one. Yeah. Right. So more equals more problems, for instance. And you can talk about how, if you go to the gym, you have 1,000 pieces of equipment to choose from. You're totally confused. You don't need all that stuff.
Yeah. I have a fun slide where I start just like bombarding all the different pieces of equipment, and they just start piling up. And I'm like, no, you don't want that. So I have some fun stuff with that. So that makes sense. The more equipment equals more problems. I like that.
Totally. And again, if you're watching or listening to this, you can take the exact opposite approach as well. You could say, a lot of people talk about how kettlebells, that's all you need. I mean, it's not whether it's true or not. It's the position and the proof that you have to back everything up, because both are true. Depending on your position and how you can work with people. Some people are like, listen, I don't believe a kettlebell is all you need, and that's fine. Right? They're going to attract specific people for them, right? And what you're saying is you only want to attract people who buy into your philosophy, because that's what this is about. The webinar is a filtering tool. So you now only attract and take to the next level the right people who agree with you and are like, yeah, tell me how this works. This sounds like this could be the thing for me. Okay. That's awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah. So let's, we talked about 3 secrets here. Obviously you can come up with 2 more if you want. We recommend 3 to 5 secrets or pieces of content to share in the webinar. Remember, the goal of the content is not to give the how, it's to teach the what and why. It's to tell people, here's what to do, why to do it, or here's what not to do and why not to do it, which builds desire for what to do instead, which is your solution, your program that you talk to them about on the phone. So have we accomplished the goal, Stacia?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. For me, what's been most useful from our discussion so far?
It's helped give me a kind of an aerial view of it a little more, because I think that that's one of my biggest problems, is that I get really caught up in the details and I have a hard time seeing the big picture of it all. And how it all connects. So the fact that I feel like now the 3 points that we went over do tie into what the real problem is, and the big idea, and even just how to simplify what I'm saying in the slides so that it is really concise, because I know that that's important.
Awesome. Yeah. And that's the benefit of having a coach, right? That's why you are doing what you do with your clients. That's why we do what we do with you guys, because it's easier for me to look over your shoulder and see those blind spots, or see that 30,000 foot view. It's tougher when you're in the trenches of your own stuff sometimes.
Yes.
So that's awesome.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, totally. So Stacia, let me ask you a question. If people are watching this or listening to this on the podcast and they're considering maybe working with us, or I've never done a webinar, or I've done a webinar and it just hasn't worked. How do I know this is going to work for me? what would you say to someone who's like, should I consider working with these guys, or are they a bunch of criminals and crooks? Get my money.
I mean, I definitely was nervous at first because this is investing in this program was the biggest investment I had made into my business thus far. But for me, it came at a point where I was really unhappy with the results I was getting. And I knew that it was kind of like, I either need to do this and say I'm committed to figuring out my business and building that life that I want, or I need to decide that that's not for me. And so by deciding it was for me, I decided to invest in this program. And I feel like sometimes I'm hard on myself, like I'm going too slow or whatever else, but that has nothing to do with the program. That's everything to do with me. But I have had a hard time finding the confidence in myself to build the business that I want. And so having the framework and the support and amazing support, beyond amazing support. From day one, I have felt nothing but supported, which is very, very nice. And to have something that I know works because it worked for me. I was like, I was sold on this before I even got on the phone with Amy. I had sold myself. So you guys did a good job there.
That's awesome. That goes back to the webinar, right?
Yeah. So I was like, if they can do it, they clearly know what they're doing. And for me, like I've been in customer service most of my life, and this outside of personal training, that's been kind of my business. And so seeing what amazing customer service and support you guys have offered has gone above and beyond. And for me, that has been the best part, along with having everything all set up for me that I need to do. And I just kind of have to plug it in and do the work, which is hard. It's very challenging to have to do the work, but I have to do the work anyways. So I'd way rather have structure and support while I do that work.
Awesome. Wicked. Well, thank you for being honest and sharing that. Just like with your clients, right? They have to do the kettlebell swings, right? You can't do it. But again, if you're committed like you have been and you show up and do the work, it's amazing what can happen with this process. So Stacia, thank you so much for joining us today, for openly kind of sharing what's going on with the webinar.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Hopefully we've gotten you some more direction and clarity from this, and looking forward to seeing where things end up in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us on this episode of the Healthpreneur podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, here's what I'd like you to do right now. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Healthpreneur podcast on iTunes. And while you're there, leave us a rating or review. It helps us get in front of more people and change more lives. And if you're ready to start or scale your health or fitness coaching business and want to start getting in front of more people, working with them at a higher level without trading time for money, then I invite you to check out our free 7-figure health business blueprint training, totally free right now. And you can do so at healthpreneurgroup.com/training. For now, thank you so much for joining us. Continue to be great, do great, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.